Every day, software engineers leave hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars left on the table because they fail to negotiate their salary. And in the next 10 minutes, you'll learn the exact techniques that I personally use to negotiate over $50,000 in salary increases and how you can too. Now, before I lay out the blueprint on exact steps that you can follow, I want to make it uber clear why negotiating your salary is so damn important. Let me just start with the big stone and one I think we can all relate on, and that's money, and how critical, especially at a younger age, a bigger salary can be on your financial health. Let's just use simple numbers, and in full transparency, this is like an oversimplified example. But let's say you are the age of 25, you have a $100,000 salary, your company matches 100% for 3% of your income. That means at the end of the year, you will have $6,000 in your 401k. 3% from you, 3% from your employer. Well, when you retire at the age of 65, that will be a little over $1.4 million. Now take the same age, the same match, the same scenario, except that your salary is $110,000. Through the same process, just this extra $10,000 comes out to a 401k at retirement of $1.6 million. A $10,000 salary difference makes a $200,000 retirement difference. And if you want to think about this money in a near term and not think about retirement, the average salary increase at companies is 3%. If you start this job and you're an absolute rock star, maybe you get a 5% raise, and that would put your salary at $105,000 after the raise. However, let's say you negotiated all the way up to $150,000. And I get it. Some of you are saying like, no way in shit are you gonna negotiate your way $50,000. Well, I'm here to tell you, I personally did. But anyways, let's say you have $150,000 and maybe you're a slightly above average and not a rock star that year, and you only got a 4% raise. That would put you at $156,000. The point I'm trying to make here is when you have a bigger salary, it gives you a little more runway to get less of a performance annual percentage and still make more money. So you don't always have to be that absolute stud pulling a 5% every single year. And lastly, I think we'd all be lying if we didn't point out the fact that growing your salary while in the job is significantly harder than any other time. Like, we've all felt this pain where the new guy comes in and they're barely making anything less than you. So think about it. If you plan to be at this company for a couple years, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, you may genuinely see less of a salary increase over the entire time you're at the job than what you could potentially get by just negotiating it out the gate. So all of that sounds great, but what do you do about it? First and foremost, when it comes to negotiation and getting a bigger salary, one of the worst things that you can do is show your hand first. Coming in way too low, pricing yourself in way too high, all kills opportunities and your ability to extract leverage out of the conversation. If you come in at 100K and the employer secretly was willing to pay 140K for you, well, you severely just shot yourself in the foot. But on the other side, if you come in at 150K and they were only willing to offer 140 and you were willing to take 140, well, you might have just priced yourself out a little too high and maybe they're losing interest in you. Instead, what you need to do is get the employer to show their hand first, to give you the expectations and the budget that they are expecting you to fall within. And you will be asked in your interview processes, what's your expected salary range? And this is what you can say, like, seriously, no shit. Copy and paste this answer, memorize it, write it down on your hand, do what you need to do. What you can tell the hiring manager is that you would love to learn more about the roles and expectations before discussing compensation. This way, you can have a better and more tailored conversation to about how you can add value to the conversation. And what this does is actually something amazing. It sets the tone for the entire remainder of your interview process. It allows you to really know the expectations and no shit, the check boxes that they're expecting you to fill. And this is a secret weapon because this will give you the exact blueprint of how you need to tailor everything you say for the remainder of the conversation so that you're painted in a light that adds value. After all, you're not going to just get more money because you're nice to talk to. You will only get more money for the value, or at least the perceived value, that you can add to the company. The next power move on negotiating a bigger salary is to give them the silent treatment. And I get it, maybe that sounds petty or scary, and it is actually a little hard to do. But I'm telling you, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to literally shut up. When you finally get that expected salary range, don't say a damn thing. for like 6 to 8 seconds. And I get it, it's going to be tricky. But when you get that expected range from the manager, sit there like kind of thinking about it. But in your head, you're just counting Mississippis. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, all the way up 6 or 8 seconds. And this will feel like an eternity. And that is exactly the point. Watch what happens next, because silence, especially because human psychology says we hate silence, but silence will be an absolute game changer for you, and often will force the hiring manager to negotiate against themselves. If you are truly valuable and they try to like undercut you a little bit, this silence will feel like 1,000 tiny cuts to them. And in my experience, you'll see these hiring managers actually steer the conversation to start meeting your perceived expectations. Like no shit, I once had an offer, which honestly was already a pretty stellar offer, and I gave the hiring manager the silent treatment just as I'm prescribing to you all. And after about 5 seconds of waiting, the hiring manager finally broke the silence and said, and of course there's some flexibility in there. And like, that's your ticket in. And if they don't break the silence after legit 6 to 8 seconds, that's when you can chime in again and tell them that you really appreciate the offer, but you need more time to evaluate, and just ask when they need a decision by. You may leave their office or the Zoom call literally screaming in excitement because it's already an offer of your dreams, but by positioning yourself this way, it puts them in the hot seat and not you. And before we dive into the last point, if you have gotten any value out of this so far, I would immensely appreciate if you hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, and I promise, in return, I will keep showing up every single week. Back to the video. So you've gotten the expectations and the expected salary range. You've turned up the heat a little bit by giving them the silent treatment. And now you're finally ready to make a move. So that this last point is that when you're finally ready to pounce and give them your figures, you need to come with evidence. I don't care if this is on your first ask, on a counter offer, every single time that you ask for money, you need to come with evidence. As I mentioned before, you're never going to get more money just because you're a cool dude to talk to, or like you and your hiring manager have the same favorite sports team. That will never get you more dollars. Your salary is directly derived from the value that you add to the company and literally nothing else. And value doesn't necessarily mean just how well you write code. Your leadership, your personality, how you go about carrying yourselves and getting things done, all of the things outside of writing code have a huge value add as well. So if you want to make this next part easy, hit the top link down below for my free value proposition worksheet that you can keep and use and copy and paste forever and ever. Once again, totally free. And in this value proposition, you're answering 3 simple questions: what they need, what I've done, and what is the impact. And here's the key. Every single bullet that you write, every answer that you give needs to directly connect to one of their needs. And if you did your homework earlier in the conversation part, you already know what those needs are. You already wrote them down. You already have every single checkbox that they're looking for you to fill. And if you didn't do this part, no shit. Before you give them a figure, go back, ask the hiring manager for another 15 or 20-minute phone call and get that information. Do not answer anything about money until you understand what those checkboxes are. Oh, and now is not the time to list all of your achievements. You've already done that. You're in the interview process. You've already wowed them with your achievements. Now is the time to really dial in and give them evidence on how you are going to solve their exact problems. And by positioning yourself this way, you're not asking for more money here. You're showing your ROI. So once again, go ahead, answer these 3 questions, respond back to them with evidence on whatever figure you're going to ask for. And if you want some free resources, top link down below. I want to hook you up. I want to make your life easier, and I want you to go after the salary that you actually deserve. Because look, at the end of the day, negotiation is not about tricks or cool tactics or about smoothing the manager over. It's about knowing your worth and actually being able to prove it. Use the free resource, practice it, own it, put yourself in the hiring manager's shoes, because they are going to take a risk on you. And for the love of God, stop leaving dollars on the table and go get every single penny. You work incredibly hard and you deserve it. If this video is helpful or you want more career tips, consider subscribing to the channel. I immensely appreciate each and every one of you. This has been an absolute blast, and I'm so excited to continue building this community this year. And with that, I will see you all next week. Peace.